tongue is numb, the current's clean. Your dog is dead, it's a Ponzi screen. Ponzi screen, because it's just something to do.
We are here. We are alive. We are grateful for that. This is Ponzi Scream. I'm David Bradley Eisenberg. How is everyone? Is everyone safe?
I'm cozy in my apartment right now. This is Gabe Pacheco, as always, here in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And, I still haven't figured out how to get the background to work on my Zoom. But other than that, things are going okay with all things considered in the world right now.
No, I like you being backgroundless, Gabe. I like your setting. You have a nice bookshelf. There's a plant. I can see the top of your I guess, is it a futon or just a couch?
This is a futon.
That's a futon.
I like a couch you can sleep on.
Yeah, they really get maligned. They've gotten maligned in like stoner culture and like movies like from the early 2000s, but like honestly, multi-purpose piece of furniture that I can totally respect, and I'm glad you have one. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah, this is my base where I've been fighting with people online all day who are saying that they like protests, but they don't like looters.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
They're like,
Yes.
I wish it could just be peaceful. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Why are we even talking about looters? You
Yeah.
know?
Can I share my my favorite piece of looting that's happened so far?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my favorite thing that's happened so far happened approximately last night, about 12 hours ago, when a small, very focused mob looted the Rolex store in Soho. That was very, very cool. It was an awesome video of just a bunch of peeps just rolling through, I don't know, probably like one of those weird little like Green Street or whatever, one of those weird little guys, blasted into the Rolex store. Everybody right in, came out, was all done in like 2 minutes. And like I really was thinking about the idea of what it means to loot a Rolex store. And it's like the most personal, wonderful transfer of wealth to a poorer class than you could possibly make. Because those watches cost conservatively like $5,000 like each, and I've watched so many Antiques Roadshow videos of like fucking old white people from the 70s. A lot of guys from like Vietnam will have like these stories that are like, oh, my sergeant told me that if I wanted to have a watch, I should get a Rolex. So a guy will like spend, $100 in 1968 money on a Rolex, and then it'll be worth like $20,000 in like 2020 money. So like all these people who got a Rolex, they can do one of two things. They can either A, just sell it for some quick cash on eBay or some shit like that, although I'm sure they're all serialized, or they just keep it and just let that wealth accumulate over years and years and years, because Rolexes, generally speaking, do not devalue.
Gabe, does your futon appreciate or depreciate over the years?
It certainly doesn't take a licking and keep on ticking. This futon's got a shelf life of about 2 more years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm hanging out on this futon all day, and I posted this thing today, pictures of the backs of people's heads, mostly in Brooklyn, because my parents live in Washington, D.C., and I went to the Barclays Center last night. And from 7 till about 9:30, I was out there walking around, marching, and I'd been hearing so many stories about how the protesters were violent. That narrative that the protesters are causing problems. And so I posted these images of just people in all the windows cheering, and all of the cars honking in support, and the bus drivers waving and honking, and people on the buses that were stuck in the middle of the protest march waving and like very excited. So this feeling of solidarity within the community in downtown Brooklyn last night ran counter to a lot of the narratives that I was seeing online. And so I wanted to post that. I posted that today, and I got a bunch of backlash from a lot white friends of friends being like, yeah, I just don't understand. Everything's great as long as it's peaceful and there's no looting.
Thank
And
you for saying the H in white. I really appreciate that. As a white
that
man myself, that was courteous.
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of where I feel like I've got a Twitter brain today where I haven't been able to focus on much because I keep looking at my phone when I get new updates from, fights on threads that I've posted.
Yeah, fresh off the posting wars, Gabe Pacheco.
And it's really not the lane I like to be in. I'm not a poster.
How did you feel? How did you feel walking out in the world again,
Today?
Gabe? Because
Oh.
during the protest, because I know you've done a pretty good job about avoiding all like being very conscientious of like social distancing and stuff. So how did it feel to be out in the world again?
Well, right. I mean, I'll bring up just I'm an indoor kid. I'm a little sick boy, and I've got really bad lungs. So I was really paranoid and worried about coronavirus for maybe the first 65 days of being shut in my railroad apartment with my live-in ex-fiance. And
The next binge thing
I feel
now
like
available online.
The Black Lives Matter protests really helped springboard me out of my shut-in. It really gave me like the proper motivation to get out.
I was expecting to, like, when we got out of this quarantine, to like go to like a dive bar with my friends, go to a comedy show, but no, I'm going back to another fucking police brutality march again. Just like it's just it of course that's how 2020 is. It's in some ways not surprising how surprising it is.
Sure. Well, that's my check-in for today.
That's good. That's good.
So with us as well, before we get too far into this, is comedian and activist Elsa Eli Waithe. What's up, Elsa? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I'm here.
How have you been, Elsa? What's going on?
It's been a ride. My birthday was just yesterday.
Happy birthday.
HBD.
Thank you. And from Sunday to Sunday, it has been quite a year this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To say the least, yeah.
Say the least. On top of the pandemic craziness, personal on a micro level, my own craziness, there's Black folks still getting killed, so on one hand, very saddened, upset, angry about that. Also, very delighted everything is on fire. This is quite possibly the best birthday gift. Revolution is quite possibly the best birthday gift anyone has ever given me. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, apparently it's just like way easier to set a cop car on fire than like I anticipated it would probably be. Like they keep catching on fire, and it's just like, all right, people are doing a pretty good job lighting those things up.
What I've been trying to tell people for years, and even what I've been trying to tell people this weekend, is we have to first kill the cop that lives in our head. Right?
Ooh.
That's the very first thing. Even throughout this weekend, at several points, there have been no, I've been out in the streets, and at several points, there's been no cops around us, and everybody is just sort of orderly, self-gathered themselves, self-policed themselves back onto the sidewalk, And it's like, hey, why are y'all using the sidewalk? Why are y'all using the crosswalk? And why are we waiting for a light? It's just because that's just because that's how we've been conditioned, At one point, we hit the Manhattan Bridge to cross the Manhattan Bridge, and they sort of funneled everyone onto the walkway portion. But 20 yards past the police line, you can just hop the little fence onto the roadway. Right?
Yes.
So I hopped the fence onto the roadway, and everyone's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, taking my street, the street that belongs to me, the street that belongs to all of us. We all really gonna walk across this bridge on the walkway the entire time because the police told you to. Meanwhile, there's 20 of them and 200 of us. There all this hand wringing about who's burning what down and the optics, and we should be more peaceful.
Got Trump to.
Huh?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, we got Trump to hide in a bunker last night. Like,
right?
Keep going.
I'm just saying, all of that is still white supremacy, trying to look good, or ooh, this doesn't help the cause, or whatever. Like right now, actually, there is no cause. Right now, the cause is motherfuckers is angry. That's the cause. There is no, there's no direction. What do you want? I don't know what the fuck I want. I want to be angry right now. That's what I want. I want to be angry right now. I want you to move the fuck out my way. That's what I want. And people are like, well, what does this solve? It doesn't solve anything. But I'm not here to solve anything. I'm not a policymaker. I'm not a politician. I'm not a police officer. It's not my job to solve anything. I'm angry. Move the fuck over and let a motherfucker be angry.
Now that's interesting because earlier I said the thing about what I wanted to present was this idea that it's not the protesters who are causing the violence. And that doesn't mean that I'm against violence. It's that it is the police that are the antagonists.
Yes, in every instance, the police instigate. They start it, and a lot of times people don't even understand. Some things are being broken so people can go hide inside of the motherfucker.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
When you see, what I try to tell people is when you see people looting a Target, one thing you don't see, you see people running out with clothes and TVs. Which one thing you don't see is people running out with the baby items, with groceries. With formula.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, do you know where baby formula is one of the most shoplifted things. That's why baby formula is often kept behind the counter now. You don't see people running out. You don't see people running out with the food, or if they're running out with clothes, they got kids' clothes. They got baby clothes. Shoplifting and looting is a legitimate form of protest in a society that commodifies basic survival. So while I'm here getting my baby formula, I'm gonna get a fucking stereo too. While we at it, I'm owed this goddamn stereo.
It's really It's impulse looting. It's like you went into the store for the Pampers, but right next to the Pampers.
This Rolex is also very important to my survival.
I need to know what time it is.
That's actually true.
Yeah, well, I think it does lead to what you were saying a moment ago, too, where a lot of media outlets are basically prescribing what people should be feeling. Like George Floyd wouldn't want this. Like, this was a lot, or this needs to be peaceful, or this needs to be this, or this needs to be that. And just like, who are you to say what anything is supposed to be? It's like the only thing you do by saying what you're saying as a news outlet or whatever is you're just telling on yourself about what makes you afraid. And honestly, to have a candid moment, it's just like, all right, I'm sorry you feel so. I'm sorry you're afraid that loud noises and, a little bit of chaos makes you afraid. But again, it's way more telling that you will just immediately crumble at the sight of like, oh, like you're like a wealthy dowager, just like, oh, like on the fainting couch the minute you see people like looting stuff. It's also just like a point of thing where it's just like the United States does this all over the fucking world. Like what we've done to Iraq, like Lebanon, just like all these places.
That's
like
exactly right. Well,
yeah.
I mean, one quick thing on that is that people. Okay, so there's this understanding of fascism to be imperialism brought home to the domestic sector, and I think that that's a good point to bring up, Danny. there was this tweet that I saw that said that had a question. It said, "This is by Professor Paul Post. Did Iraq and Afghanistan wars contribute to the militarization of U.S. police departments?" And he says the data is very clear. Surplus military equipment transferred to local law enforcement via the 1033 program, I have no idea what that is, steadily rose starting in the mid-2000s, followed by spikes
the 1033
after
program
2010.
is just surplus military equipment going to police forces for cheap.
Refurbished.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a looting to me. I don't know. But
That's I like what you guys brought up. This was a thing that somebody in one of my posts earlier talked about, was that the generation of police officers that we're now confronting in the streets are Iraq war vets. And that made me think that
Jesus.
all of the tactics that they put in place and experimented on the people of Baghdad with to suppress them are now being brought home. So it's like we colonize Baghdad and we terrorize people all over the world, and then those people come back here and terrorize us.
I mean, even just that speaker, the LRAD, the long range acoustic device.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was made to flush people out of caves and hidey holes in Iraq. All right. That whole thing where they play annoying music, they play they play Metallica or whatever into your cave until you lose your mind or whatever.
Is yet another thing I have in common with Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
But that device was brought back here, and you see it all the time. They use it for their dispersal warnings. All right. It can get loud enough to permanently damage your hearing. And there have been times where they turn from the dispersal warning, please get out of the street, you're subject to arrest, to just the straight up like, what? And like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's
so scary.
It's just a giant sound cannon.
One thing that I've felt about this, speaking of like foreign intervention, has been all these accusations that there are these foreign agents. And it reminds me a lot of Russiagate. And I think in that it's not that you think that you actually think that there are foreign agents. It's that you can't wrap your head around the fact that this is what America actually is. And so you come up with other things to digest and understand it. It has to be foreign saboteurs. And these are like well-meaning liberal democratic politicians saying that it's like that it's foreign agents.
Right. I think there's two lines of things happening, because this is also well documented around the war, in the 1930s. Right.
Yeah.
There's two things that's happening. There's one that people just cannot believe that this is happening, right? Like you said, and there must be some sort of outside agitators, some foreign agent is ginning this up or whatever. But also
Robert Mueller's got to join the NYPD,
Well, yeah. Well, there's also the tactic of making people suspect and turn on each other, right?
Right.
Who is, is this guy really from the neighborhood? What is this guy's intentions? Why are you burning this down? And now suddenly we're not paying attention to the police. We're trying to play who's an undercover, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And they will purposely be obvious. What people don't understand is obvious undercover is a game that we play in the streets because they are purposely making themselves obvious so that you see the obvious undercover, which now makes you think, well, shit, maybe there's some other people I'm not paying attention to. And guess what you're not doing now? And
right.
All this happens, it really does. I have documented evidence from about 5 years ago. Remember me showing you, Eisenberg? There's a email from the NYPD to another NYPD, my face circled, talking about leader, and they were in our text messages at one point, but like, guess what? We never did. We never figured out who that person was. So like the real undercover, you're probably not gonna figure out. But they want you to. But what you know? What we spent the next 7 months doing, pointing fingers at each other for 7 months.
Paranoia.
Paranoia for 7 months. While that
Right.
guy was probably the undercover was probably with us for maybe a week, and then disappeared. And that one week had us fucked up for 7 months.
Yeah, the funny thing about the NYPD and cops in general is that all you have to do is is like be logical about it, where you're like, I wonder if like the saboteur in this is the guy with the twiddly mustache and a top hat on, and it's just like, yes, there they are.
In those videos, when they catch the undercover, you know why? Because he's being obvious.
Yeah.
You know,
He's bait.
They do that on purpose.
Yeah,
they want you to catch them.
They're like
every video for years and years now. But the thing is,
And
the
they're all
real
wearing the same
dangerous person, you're not gonna know. So don't even waste that time trying to figure out who's who. And then on the other hand, what's like scaring the fuck out of me is that there are actually people and videos of folks turning people over to the police, who they suspect is an outside agitator or an undercover or whatever. And like, are we working for the police? What are we doing right now? If somebody's doing something you don't like at a protest, it's just like everything else in the real world. Move the fuck away from them. If you get on the subway and someone's being crazy and jerking their dick, you just move to another fucking car.
That's right.
You know? So if somebody's busting a window and you don't want to bust windows, let them bust windows. But what we're not going to do is turn people into the police.
No. Someone's beating off in the subway. You go up to them and you say, "Sir, are you an undercover policeman?"
So I just saw this tweet. This is just in. The alt-right are now circulating images of who they believe to be, quote, Antifa organizers. And the images are just the indie rock band, The National. So nobody really know. There are no organizers of Antifa. Like, there's just a lot of shadow boxing as to this whole concerted effort, kind of by everyone, by the alt-right, by, centrists, by kind of institutions. Everyone's just like, who are these? There's got to be some organizers. Like, no, we are angry, like Elsa said, 10 minutes ago, and we're just expressing ourselves. We've been, like Gabe, housed up for 65 days, and
now I'm not going to take orders from
piss
the
off
National.
A bunch of unemployed people. Jesus, now is not the time. You piss off a bunch of unemployed people at the top of the summer. Oh, bitch, we're doing this all summer.
That's crazy.
Summer rage.
No,
got nowhere to be in the morning.
Elsa, you're 100% correct, because I remember when the first protest started happening in Minneapolis, I guess, or like whatever, it feels like a year ago, but it was like 4 days ago.
It's literally just a week ago, right? It's literally just like a week ago.
And then there was like some rumblings, I think, in LA by the 101 freeway, and I said it to like my family. I was like, "Oh yeah, there's something in LA," and my mom was like, "What? There's something happening there too?" And then literally within like 30 minutes, Twitter blows up, and it's like Nashville, Chicago, Atlanta, it's everywhere. And I was like, of course it's everywhere. There's 40 million unemployed people who have been gaslit for the last 3 years by a president that's made everybody angry at everyone else. And I feel like everything that we see in the news just feels fake. And for once, these protests are just cutting through that noise, where you get to see people in every state, in every city, in the streets.
Someone was asking, like, what's the difference between now and 4 or 5 years ago? Because the comrades know this is winter 2014-15 again. You remember after Eric Garner and the Mike Brown non-indictments, there were protests in New York City every single night. There were protests around the country nearly every single night. And that
Yep.
didn't stop until suspiciously, I got some theories about it, but that didn't stop until suspiciously until 2 police officers were killed, right? But that shit was every single night. And so someone asked me, like, well, how come it's, the problem was the same 4 or 5 years ago, and we had the same energy 4 or 5 years ago. What's the difference? I'm so mad that it's taking the pandemic for people to get out. It's exactly the pandemic. Because if 4 or 5 years ago, police killings didn't touch you, or you could find a way to tune it out or escape it, you can't now. You're home all day. It's all over your TV. It's all over your Twitter. Guess what you ain't got? You ain't got a job to go to distract you. You can't go to the store.
sports.
You can't go shopping. You can't watch any sports. There's no way for you to escape it. So all those other things that you're already mad about, right? Everything that you're already mad about, you can't, no job, no school for the kids. The police got all this goddamn warfare equipment, but you had to raise a GoFundMe for your coronavirus, okay?
Right.
All this other shit added on top of that, and niggas still getting killed on the street on videotape
for a $20 bounce check.
for a $20 fake bill bounce check. I wouldn't even be upset if somebody was out here and they not even mad at the police. You just mad because you know what I'm saying? That's fine.
Right.
There's a million things for us to be mad at. You know
Yeah.
what? You late to the revolution? Fine.
Yeah.
You late to the revolution. Here go your pitchfork and your torch. We'll figure it out later. Let's just go.
Yeah,
part
like
of me
you're
feels like this is like this. The part of me feels like this is like the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand
Or something.
This is
Right.
No, this is it. And I've been telling people. I know I sounded extreme a few years ago, and I wish I'm gonna find a podcast that I remember. Somebody called into the podcast, and I got into an argument with this motherfucker because they was talking about how aggressive and how aggressive Black Brunch was, right? They were upset, and how we gonna turn people off by interrupting a lunch. And I remember saying, you better be happy all we're doing is interrupting your lunch and not turning that whole restaurant over. And I said that, and I told people, I says, when Charlottesville happened, I says, that right there was the start of our new Civil War. Nothing happened after that. We've been having a Civil War pretty much ever since Trump got elected. We've been having little teeny tiny little battles, all these little police killings, all these little what they call them, mass shootings, synagogue attacks, Walmart attacks. All of those have been battles.
That's right.
All of these times where we see white supremacists and the alt-right clashing with protesters, all of those have been battles leading up to, I guess this is some motherfucking Gettysburg or something. I told people, this is a civil war. It just don't look like the way you think. It ain't gonna have very clear decide north and south sides. They're not gonna be very clearly defined battles and marches,
Really quick though, but did you guys see that image of the hall in the South where it was like a slave auction block that got burned to the ground in the protests?
Oh, those are the Sisters of the Confederacy.
Yeah, it was some like
Yes,
the
yes,
American
yes,
Revolution shit or something like that.
Yeah,
And
they got the Sisters of the Confederacy building. I mean, bruh, I was just telling this to my friend last night, 3 a.m. I says, I think Trump might have to quit. I don't think you're allowed to let the Capitol catch fire.
That's right.
I think he might just have to quit. I mean, really, bro, of all the things that he's done, I think that's an automatic game over screen.
Right.
Right.
Like,
He only responds to real power. He is absolutely without shame. I mean, this is a madman who only there will never be a I'm too embarrassed, therefore I'm going to quit. He will have to be forced from office either politically or physically, right?
I mean, this is a vote of no confidence.
That he deserves for this. Like,
no, like really, I feel like how do we move on with the rest of this week? knowing that, this nigga's in a bunker right now. The lights is out at the fucking White House.
They're
One is home.
No trick or treating at the White
Right,
House. We have no candy for you.
This has never happened.
We're at the White House. We're the spooky house of shadows.
Yeah, how do we continue the week? He's giving a press conference and you can hear flashbangs in the background. I just watched the video. He's on the microphone and you can hear explosions. So I think he loses. I think you lose when the country's capital is burning and you're just like I don't know.
So one last thing I wanted to talk about, or one extra thing I wanted to talk about, was how there was all these police demonstrations of looking like they were kneeling with protesters or like marching with protesters. So
the fact that folk even fell for that.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's funny. Yes, I mean, like I've seen just like numerous tweets of people being like quote retweeting all these like media outlets from like cop shakes hand with protest boy, buys him a McDonald's or whatever, and they're just like and they're like every single person's like literally 45 minutes later they maced us in the face. Or,
they knelt with us. Look, this is amazing, and then it's like, oh my God, they clubbed all of us like an hour later.
They're like, we fed them.
To tell people this propaganda cycle has happened hella quick, right? There's a pretty set cycle of things that happens after every police killing, right? There's the initial outrage we all take to the streets. Everybody's angry. There may or may not be some rioting or uprising or whatever. And then, somebody's maybe or maybe not arrested or whatever. Then some black celebrity, a pastor or a preacher or somebody gets on TV. The family gets on TV. Everybody calm down. This is not what he would have wanted. Side note, if something fucked up happens to me, this is exactly what I want. Okay, don't. Do not let my mama, do not let nobody go on TV and say I would have wanted peace. Absolutely not. You have my permission. Obligation to burn shit down. Okay?
Right.
And tries to smooth it out. And then like a week later, we forget about it. And then, now there's a whole bunch of videos of people like cops playing basketball with some black kids and giving out toys and shit. But
that's my favorite. Yeah.
Right. But I always tell people, where do you think that cop who is playing basketball with the kids is doing right now?
It's like
do you think he just plays basketball with kids all day?
No,
he's the basketball. He's officer. He's Officer Hoops. He's officer. He's just like, I'm Officer Hoops. Give me the rock, and then like 2 hours later, and then just like blah, 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 blah. Like that's what it's like. That's what it is every time.
Like, does he get dunked on and just like shoot the kid because he's embarrassed? What do you think they do all day? Like that's like seriously 1% of their entire day. I can go play basketball with a cop if I wanted to right now, right?
Yeah.
Serial killers have alive friends. Rapists don't rape every woman.
Right.
Of course they're not going around killing every black person. I've had plenty. I'll be the first to admit, I've had actually several very pleasant interactions with police.
Sure.
That's not the point. I've had plenty of great interactions where I don't feel like you're about to kill me. You've helped me out. Maybe this cop went above and beyond to do something for me. Guess what you still are? A motherfucking cop. I say this shit all the time. There's a Death Star, right? Niggas work on the Death Star. There's a nigga on the Death Star whose entire job is just to mop the floor. His entire job is just to mop the floor. All he does is mop the floor and take out the trash. But when niggas blew up the Death Star, guess what? Eugene had to go too. You know why? Because Eugene took a job at the Death Star. He didn't take the job at the happy-go-lucky social justice star.
No.
There's some. Oh, there's no such
That
thought.
song doesn't exist. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
everyone's nice. That's the thing. Everyone is nice. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Everyone pets dogs. Everyone smiles at a baby.
Yeah. Everyone loves whiskey, like everyone's a barbecue aficionado, everyone's a barbecue aficionado, you know what I mean? Like there's no, like not everyone is Dick Cheney, who's just like aesthetically evil,
Dude, I have to share this video with you guys of not this Christmas, but maybe last Christmas, where I saw a firefighter, and I'm not exaggerating, in the mall, absolutely killing it on 2 turntables, like straight up, just like old school 90s DJ. Like,
He's mad at the fire department,
Because they're really heroes.
Yeah, like what's that joke? Nobody made a song called "Fuck the Fire Department."
I mean, but he was just like, he had the whole get up on, and I was just sort of like, this fucking guy. It was like,
what is he doing?
I'll share it. You guys will love it because he was off. It was it was great. Point being, you can absolutely spin the 1s and 2s and still like kill a child.
Everyone's got a hobby. And that
yeah.
I asked the cop that one time. I was like, what else did you want to do growing up? You couldn't have always wanted to be a cop. And he was like, I like riding bikes. I was like, oh, that's why you're a bike cop? I was like, you could be a bike courier. There's so many jobs you could do.
Oh, jeez. I like riding bikes.
Okay, there's got to be something else you wanted to do before you were like professional asshole. That's it. Yeah, that's it right there. Professional asshole.
He's like that. Yeah, riding a bike really fills my heart with joy. But what really makes my soul smile is touching men's buttholes and checking their nutsack.
I really like beating minorities, actually. Can I beat minorities on my bike?
Yeah.
Can I beat minorities with my bike? Which is a new crazy ass tactic. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah.
I will say bicycles have actually come into these protests in a weird way. I know several people who have basically been with protesters and rioters who have used bicycles as boundaries for people. It's a real nice, funny thing about city bikes is they're incredibly heavy. So if somebody wanted to throw one through a fucking window, it would go through the window, most assuredly. There's been all kinds of weird tech. Also, it's like when people are rioting and stuff, it's a different environment. So one option is if a cop is chasing you, it's not like normal times where they're like, "Oh, I will. Okay, officer, I'll stop here for a second." One option is to run away. It's like, "Oh shit, I gotta run away." So that's really helpful.
Saturday night was really cool because there were so many people. The cops would rush, and people would disperse. And then like 20 minutes later, be back at Barclays. And then the cops would rush and people would disperse. And then 20 minutes later, people are back at Barclays, but they done brought a friend. So it's like they couldn't keep up because as soon as you would push one group off the block over here, it's just regrouping on the next block. So it was a really cool game of cat and mouse.
I like that.
So
Whack-a-mole.
Also, I just went outside. I went outside like about an hour ago, right before we started, about like 7:00. All the stores, all the bodegas, all the grocery stores on my block have already closed. The cops are helping board up stores. The curfew was in effect at 11:00, and nobody is to be outside. So I'll see you guys outside at 11:05.
Yes.
Yeah. So Elsa, you were interviewed by Masha Gessen in the New Yorker.
Yeah.
What was she like? Everyone check that article out in the New Yorker if you can. Elsa, what was that? What was Masha Gessen like as an interviewer?
Well, you know what? She asked a lot of really just sort of open-ended questions, and just let me talk like I usually do. But what was going on was that her daughter was inside. So Thursday night there was a lot. When I got to Union Square at 6:00, it was just a lot of very young kids. I'm going to say high school and college age kids. And you could tell, very green, very wet behind the ears, full of energy, full of fire, ready to go, no direction whatsoever.
Right.
So, I just sort of rallied the troops, and I was just like, we're getting kind of big to just be sitting here. Let's get marching. And so we marched south towards Foley Square, further south to Wall Street. And these kids were about it. I mean, trash cans in the street, mailboxes in the street. There was about twice where we rolled up on like a traffic truck that had like cones and the traffic barrels and stuff in the back or whatever. Without any instruction, these kids knew exactly what to do to make barriers and to set up sort of blocks for the cops. This was amazing. But because also they're real green and wet behind the ears,
Right.
a lot of them were getting picked off. So when we stepped off around six-ish, for the most part, everything our march ended at about 8:30. A lot of them got picked off real quickly. So a lot of them were disheartened and ready to go. And I was like, no, what comes next now is jail support. We gotta, now's the time for us to go with who we have left, meet our comrades at jail for them to come out, right? None of them understood or knew what jail support was. So I walked them down to 1PP, collected money so that me and some other comrades could go up there to the market, water, snacks, protein bars, cigarettes for folks that were coming out.
Right.
The police
Aftercare.
Yeah, aftercare, jail support. You know what I'm saying?
There's a couple of good pizza places right around there.
Yeah, well, if you need some hot food or there were medics out there. We had all sorts of shit ready for you when you come out, right? Somebody was ordering Ubers for people to go home if we needed an Uber because the subway shut down. Subway shut down at 1:00 in the morning now, right? They were purposely trickling people slowly, very, very slowly out of jail that night. So Masha rolls up around 3 a.m. We're tired. There's still hella people inside. And I didn't realize or know who she was. She was just sort of standing around. And actually, at one point, I asked some comrade, like, who the fuck is this just standing around with a notebook? Like who is this standing around with a notebook looking at all of us in our faces and taking notes? He was like, He was like, actually, she's a reporter and wants to speak to you. She's a reporter from the New Yorker. I was like, oh, okay. I know the New Yorker. Let's step down the way and speak. So, we stepped down the way and speak. She told me that she was waiting for her teenage daughter. There were a couple of parents who got down there and were waiting for their kids. People who drove in from outside the city, because their kids are here in college And
outside out-of-state agitators.
well, no, and like that would be honestly, and that would be how they would carry that narrative. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. That's exactly how they would attach that outside agitator narrative. So some kid who goes to NYU gets arrested, and because you're actually from another state, now you're counted as an outside agitator. But yeah, people's parents drove in from outside the city to come get their kids, and waiting there till 4 or 5 in the morning to get their kids, because now it's past midnight and they can't release the kid, even though their parents are outside. Even though, the teenagers were the only ones allowed to make phone calls, and they know that their parents are outside waiting, some of these kids weren't released till 4 or 5 in the morning. So she's just asking me questions about like, what was the day like? What were the police like? And I told her from the beginning, from 6 o'clock, typically their MO is to wait until sundown, wait until it gets a little later, wait until some of the press has disappeared. Not at 6 o'clock in the broad daylight, but I says from 6 o'clock in the broad daylight, and especially also not with a lot of kids around. They don't want to rough up the kids, but I said that they weren't giving a fuck about the time. They weren't giving a fuck about who was bystanders on the street who were watching, if there was press there or not. From the moment we stepped off at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, to the time we decided to give up, they were aggressive, and they didn't give a fuck if it was children. And what she reported in her column was true. Person after person was coming out of jail with injuries. Like, not just you got scuffed up, you got roughed up. Kid, 17, 18 years old, arm broken, hand limp. Arm broken, hand limp. They rendered him no medical attention.
Wow.
Female comes out, eye black, swollen, nose bloody, lip busted. A trans person comes out. They were in a tank top and shoulder bloody, legs bruised up from just being beaten up with the baton all across the legs. This is person after person.
Isn't it? It's a protest against police brutality, and the police immediately show how brutal they can be.
Yeah, they just got their prepositions wrong. They're like, oh, we thought this was a protest for police brutality.
You guys don't like it? We got it wrong. You don't like the police brutality?
We thought we were being festive.
It was she was great to talk to. It was really kind of just a vent session, at about what I'd been seeing that night, and the importance also of jail support. That's just another thing that I'm trying to like get across to people, is that there's levels to this bitch, right? Nobody is saying you got to get out in the street and throw a brick. Nobody's saying you got to get out here and get confrontational with the police, but can you stand on a corner and maybe pass out some waters as people go by? Can you open your restaurant or your store and let people come inside and take a break, use the bathroom? I seen store owners grabbing people out the street, grabbing them and pulling them inside when pepper spray was being thrown.
Wow.
Can you donate to a bail fund? Can you donate to a black person directly? Sure. Somebody who's going out tonight, you can't go out tonight. They put some money on their card. You know what I'm saying? It's as simple as that. Just like, get in where you fucking fit in. There is a role for everybody. And that's why, again, this designation of calling Antifa terrorist is dangerous for everybody.
Exactly.
It's that Kleenex problem, right? All tissue is known as Kleenex, even though not all tissue is Kleenex, right? So when you think and hear the words Antifa, right, you automatically think of white kids in black, masked up, breaking shit, right? And that's not all it is. Antifa is that. It's also,
and a lot of those people are very nice.
Yeah, it's also food not bombs. It's also feeding the community. It's also street medic shit. But when you categorize the ideology or a way of thinking as terrorists, then what that does is all actions underneath that are now terrorists.
Yeah,
Right.
like when I think of the word, because I was talking about this to people today. What is Antifa? Is it an organization? That's what they're thinking. I'm like, no, it means anti-fascist, and it's like it's against fascism. Like, are you pro-fascist? And they're like, no, and I'm like, all right then. Would you fight against fascism?
Well,
Right.
that's the
And
mindset.
it looks different. It's like karate styles, like I said, it's like martial arts styles, or it's like Christianity or whatever. We're all not gonna practice the same martial art. We're not all gonna, pray the same exact way. There are some basic tenets, to Christianity that all Christians sort of agree upon, and then from there, you decide how you do it.
Elsa, I saw so many beautiful things yesterday at the Barclay Center. In the brief time I was there, I had at least 24 people offering me bottles of water from the sideline. And exactly what you're saying, because before I went down, I think some people might feel like, well, you go to a protest, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're on your feet the whole time. You're walking the whole time. What are you supposed to do? What if you need to use the bathroom? What if you get sick? What if anything? And the thing is there are people there who are supporting all of these needs. Like in front of me walking was a woman who had a sign on her book bag on her back that said, I have Advil, aspirin, Band-Aids, what else? Benadryl. And I was like, hell yeah. Good looking for the indoor kid right here.
When I first started going out, and some of y'all have seen my big fat green sea bag, right? You've seen
Yeah.
that, right? When I first started going out, I would carry a sea bag with gauze, bandages, granola bars, throat lozenges or whatever. There are people who I see pull up in cars to block traffic, pop the trunk open, grab what you want out the truck. There's water, there's snacks, there's protein bars, and your truck is serving two purposes. You're blocking off traffic. It's a station. When people keep asking me, what can I do? What can I do? What do you think? How do you think you can help? And fucking do it. And you know what I think? A lot of people ask that so that I can tell you a thing to do, and then you can be like, oh, I can't do that. But then you could be like, oh, well, I asked.
Dude, I want to see the counter, the protester out there who's helping out in their own I don't know why I thought you mentioned like a big bag. I just want to see like a guy with like a fucking like waterproof bag and stuff, and he looks like crazy, and he's like covered in baby oil, and the cops try to tackle him, and they're like, "What's in the bag?" And then they put their hands in it, just like, "It's filled with cum. It's a fucking bag full of cum. That's it." They're like, "Ha! I'm a decoy. I'm crazy.
Crazy guy, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's another thing I try to tell people. Those privileged white kids you see dressed in black are serving a fucking purpose, okay? First off, if you ever see just one, that's an undercover, okay? If you ever just see one, stay away from that person. But
that's NYPD Foot Clan.
They need friends.
Sorry?
NYPD Foot Clan. Sorry.
Yeah, no, stay away from anybody, just by themselves all dressed in black. That's an op. But when you see, Black Bloc, when you see the white kids all dressed in white and they're breaking shit, that's for a fucking reason. It serves multiple purposes. It pulls the attention away from everyone else, right, to allow the march to continue. All right. And they understand their place and their privilege in the scheme of things, that they can do that they can take riskier behaviors, get caught, and get a lighter sentence. That's just how the system works. And that's, flexing your privilege. Put yourself in, they put themselves oftentimes in between black and brown protesters, as a buffer. It serves a purpose. If you don't know, also, if you don't know why motherfuckers are doing things, Ass.
Show up with your notebook and your pen. what are you
Elsa,
doing?
actually, I have a follow-up question on that. If you could,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly the extent of your knowledge of this stuff, but do you have any relevant information as to like the kinds of charges that people are charged with when they do get caught up by the police?
I know someone who got charged with jaywalking. I know people who've gotten disrupting the peace. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Elsa. Go ahead.
No, you're right. And that's another thing I tell people when they get released, right? Is that most of the time you're getting a ticket. Okay, you're getting a disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, and oftentimes if you do get something else, right? Like I've gotten a resisting arrest. The thing is,
Sure.
you and 100, 200, 300 people are also getting the same thing. When you guys show up at court, the court just wants to process this as quickly as possible. So oftentimes your charge is going to get dismissed. Maybe there's a fine. Maybe there's some community service. You're not going to jail. And once people understand that, which is what I say, you know what I'm saying? You got to start to kill that cop in your head. Your first protest arrest, I tell people, it does one of two things. It's meant to either radicalize you or scare you. You have to decide what happens from that point. Did that scare you enough for you to not do it again? Because that's what they want to do. It's a timeout. It's big boy timeout, right?
Yeah.
It's a big boy. It's a big boy
It's big boy timeout. They want to scare you. They want to make it uncomfortable so that you don't do it again, right?
And it's meant to break up free speech and free exercise. Like it's not an actual. My theory about it is that it's not an actual arrest.
It's
They
not.
don't care
In
that
fact,
you're
I
actually
actually don't
jaywalking.
really have a record in New York.
Right. They don't care that you're disorderly conduct. They're doing it for the purpose of collectively stopping free speech and free.
Right.
Its purpose is larger than the sum of the arrests themselves. It's
Right. And so that's another reason why jail support is important. So that when people come out of jail, they don't feel like shit, right? Like you're supposed to be celebrated. When you're look what you did. You did it. You know, you made it through. It wasn't that bad. And look, we're here with you for some cigarettes and some water, you know. That's the whole thing. Is it's meant to just discourage you, right? And Masha talks about that in her piece as well, that her daughter, you know, when her daughter finally got out, she talked about how how people's mood cycled from excitement and giddiness to despair for how long they had been sitting in there, right? And of course they don't tell you, you know, there's no clock. You can't figure out how long you've been in there. So it doesn't matter if you're only in there for 2 hours. It feels like forever. And
they want you to keep gambling, you know?
Yeah, they want you to feel uncomfortable that you'll never do that again. Oh man, that was awful. That's the point. So when you ask what sort of charges you get, honestly, probably nothing.
Yeah.
Also, jail is probably wild, or being caught up at like One Police Plaza is wildly different, because if it's just like any day of the week and you get like a cop arrests you, then you're just getting thrown in with a bunch of random people. But if you are getting arrested in a mass protest, it's like, yeah, it's like only you, your friends, and the one guy who was like fucking a watermelon during the protest, you know.
I want to go to the watermelon.
Evan, shout out to Evan Leslie Jones, who some years ago actually did a stand-up set in the male's pen. You know,
who books that?
We've played games. We've played games while in jail. You know, it's not as scary as it's depicted as being. Not really scary at all.
It's now a comedy club. All right. It just like reminds me of like when people will be at coffee shops and you do like some crappy coffee shop show. But that's much better. Yeah, that's what games did you guys play in there?
You can things like guessing games and stuff, because you can't really see each other. That's the other difference. The males and men are held in a pen all together, and that's another thing she wanted to talk. That's another thing Masha wanted to talk about was the conditions. So the men are in a pen together, 30, 40 some people in one pen, no masks because they take your property away from you. And the women are 2 to 3 to a cell, an individual cells. Yeah, so there's 2 separate locations in one PP. So that's the good thing about, like, when the men come out, they can tell you approximately how many more men are still inside, whereas it's hard to figure out what's going on back in the women's section. So, but yeah, the whole jail thing is corny.
Why do you think they do that? Have the men in a pin and the women separate?
I don't know, safety or something.
There's just like there's one security guard who's like, all right, we'll put all the dudes in one big pile, and we're gonna put 3 ladies all together in this one little corner room, and hey, if anything happens, hey, boy, be my guest, please, but don't let me. I'm just gonna be over here with binoculars looking at you guys.
Yeah, don't mind
binoculars.
Me. Yeah.
No, they're doing it for feminism, I'm sure.
Yeah,
When I think about aftercare, I think of the that scene in Goodfellas, the first time that Henry Hill gets pinched and he's a little kid, and then he steps out of the courthouse, and all of the older Goodfellas are like, "Hey!" and they like give him a big party.
It's literally exactly like that. It's literally exactly like that.
Yeah.
No, there's a guy in the mail pit who's just like slicing onions. He's like, you'll never get him this thin. Like, it's like, how long has he been here? Just like
David came for me for jail support. I wasn't expecting him to show up, but yeah.
Yeah, that was the night we were when that woman the woman who was selling the food in the subway, she got arrested, and we had to protest after that. That was in Harlem, and that night, Elsa was getting pulled in by a cop to get arrested, and I was literally playing tug-of-war with the cop with Elsa's body, and I was trying to pull her back, and then the cop punched me in the face, and then the cop arrested Elsa, and then I was down in jail support until like 3 a.m. until you got out, and it was fun hanging out down there, honestly. Like I bought some ginger snaps, and I was just giving those out to people. And we had like there's a bunch of free pizza and coffee, and it was
jail support's good fun.
Energy.
It's actually good fun.
It was good energy. Yeah.
But you speaking of jail, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, so we wanted to talk a little bit about like why, and we'll get into this next week. We want to talk about just like why we have so many people in prison and like what this is tied to, because this is a white collar crime podcast, and we always like to focus on what is the financial incentive behind this sort of. Yeah, we'll get into the other stuff. No, we'll get into the other stuff next week. We want to talk about Geo Group. We want to talk about MTC and Core Civic. These are these 3 biggest private prisons in the country, and it's just kind of like all part of this financialization of our prison industrial complex. I mean, on top of all the sorts of issues that they've caused things. The family of a transgender woman who died in ICE custody files a federal lawsuit against Core Civic. This is one of these private prisons. Ex-employee of ICE facility in Anson says the company didn't do enough to stop the COVID-19 spread. They're claiming that a private prison did this. An immigrant sued ICE is missing. being deported to a dangerous border city. Where were they? They were in a private prison facility. Private prison inmates sued Queens corporate jailer over the coronavirus rampage. This is all happening before last week, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean we have a culture of incentivizing human incarceration? And
Yeah.
I know.
This
it's
is
like- it's
another
like- it's
thing.
like
This is another thing to be out in the streets for. This is what I was just saying. There's so many things happening that you just pick a reason and grab a pitchfork.
Right.
Well, if you really want to get even, say you're not a person who's like, oh, I don't like writing. I think that's lame and dumb. You're just a real square or whatever. I looked up this number the other day. Guess how much the NYPD was sued for in the calendar year of 2018 to 2019. This is just NYPD suits. How much do you think it was for the calendar year of 2018 to 2019?
$27 million.
Okay, Gabe says 27 million. David, what do you say?
69,420.
Okay, $69,420,000. Elsa, do you have a guesstimate?
100 million.
$250 million. What?
Dude, that's more than the GDP of Guatemala.
The amount of suits, and this isn't even just sort of like aggressive force suits, but the aggressive force ones, that totals around like 60-ish million. But the amount that the NYPD on its own is sued is a financial catastrophe. Just imagine that's all taxpayer money too. Every time the NYPD beats someone up.
NYPD, got a settlement, got some money or whatever out of it.
Oh.
They broke my ribs. They broke my ribs on camera. They broke my ribs on camera unprovoked. They broke my ribs on camera unprovoked and did not arrest me. So, I wasn't breaking the law or anything. But they needed to detain me or nothing like that. They just shoved me over and kept walking.
Was this in a boxing match or?
No, in fact, this is why I began cop watching, because I actually just stopped to record something that they had some white kid with bright red hair. That's the only reason why I even seen it. Was the kid was tall and gangly. He was up in front of me running, and they were trying to put everybody on the sidewalk, and he runs and cuts in between two cars to get on the sidewalk, and the cops are just like, him. And they chase him up onto the sidewalk and up against a building, and they have him smashed up against the building, and there's some other cop reaching over the scrum of the other cops to basketball this kid's head against the wall. He's just like, wow, wow, wow. And I'm noticing this because his bright red hair is just like going everywhere. So I run over to the sidewalk. So I'm like, gotta record this shit. And obviously you don't want to be recorded. And cop comes out my blind side and knocks me over. And that's how that happens. Fast forward, we sue them for that. I get a settlement. I get some money. And, people are all like, aren't you happy about that? I was like, well, not exactly, because that police officer is still on the force.
Yeah.
It's not as much money as I'm deserved. And secondly, it doesn't come out of the NYPD pocket. You paid me. I paid me.
I paid me.
Yeah, this is all of our taxpayer dollars.
Dude, Elsa, it drives me crazy. This guy texted me and he was like, I don't approve of the police vans on fire. And I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, it's our tax dollars that are and I was like, I mean, I had to not respond right away. I had to formulate my thoughts, but like 10 minutes later, it was like, my tax dollars also pay for drones and rubber bullets and fucking aircraft carriers, and all that shit can be thrown into the garbage compactor along with all the cops. So
okay, wait. Would you rather your tax dollars going to police vans or COVID response?
Right,
Because Because if my tax dollars are going to police vans, that to me is a waste of money any goddamn way. Fuck that van. Fuck that van. Ain't nobody out here burning down. Ain't nobody out here burning down elementary schools. You know?
I mean, like, also seeing all those face masks that was being used by riot cops when, like, all the nurses are having the plastic bags.
Oh, bro.
Oh my God, that's right. Yeah.
My eyes have rolled out of my head so many times. And, and I even had to get upset with Black business owners today, right? And I was like, you know what? I do feel bad if something happens to your Black business, but guess what it still is? At the end of the day, it's a business. It's a building. It's a building, it's a business. And I really don't want nobody fucking with your Black business or whatever. But guess what can come back? Your business.
Yeah.
Guess what cannot come back? You know what you sound like right now? You sound like some white people being more concerned with some goddamn property. I'm sorry your business, your family business that's been in your family for 25 years is gone. But guess what? There's some 25-year-old people who are also gone today. There's some people who didn't reach their 25-year-old birthday. And at the end of the day, fuck your Black business, fuck your small business, fuck your medium-sized business, fuck your national corporation, fuck your regional corporation, okay? Fuck the fruit stand on the corner, all right? Fuck it all. Like, really? Like, I'm really sorry.
And that's like clearly not helping solve this issue with this excessive police brutality against Black people. Like, who just died in Louisville but a small business owner, a barbecue stand, a Black man who owned a barbecue restaurant and was giving out free barbecue to police officers, and he was still killed by the cops yesterday. Like, you being a small business owner doesn't matter who you are, it does not make you a perfect or good person, and it is not going to save you from this fascist state. It's just not. And
the other thing I told this person was, you know what, if you wanna maybe protect your business or whatever, make sure your doors are open to give protesters some water. Nobody's burning down the place that's giving the protesters water. All right.
Yeah.
Make sure make sure you got. If you want to make sure your spot is safe, be there to make sure you got somewhere for people to use the bathroom. Nobody's burning down the spot that's the bathroom. Okay. There's some ways to protect your shit if you really worried about your shit. But being like, oh no, please don't burn down my Black business. Fuck it. Because you know what happens if your Black business winds up, if it ends up surviving, guess what? It's still out there. COVID. Ain't nobody coming to your fucking restaurant any goddamn way. Okay?
Yeah.
Guess what? If your Black business survives, guess what's gonna get it? Gentrification. Ain't nobody coming for your Black business anyway.
Elsa, you mean the new Great Depression? The fact that nobody has money.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you out here protecting your business that ain't guaranteed to survive the next 6 goddamn months anyway.
And being vandalized, it might get insurance money.
Yeah,
being
vandalized might actually be the best thing that happens to it.
Yeah, because now you've got a story. God. If the brand is strong, you might come out of this on top.
I'm just saying, we need to worry about we need to keep our focus, yo. Keep our focus. The focus is right now, fuck the police. And how the fuck you feel like getting there? There's a word that I really need everybody to fucking understand. It's autonomy. Do whatever the fuck you feel like. Ain't no rules right now.
Yeah. If you wanna survive as a business as well, keep the bathroom open, and you just put a sign out that says, if you want to blow something up, let it be this bathroom. Paint the walls! Paint the walls!
Funny story either. Points for humor.
Yeah. That's a very good idea.
All right, well let's end it on painting the walls with that. I think that's a good note. Paint the walls, everyone. This has been a special episode, and we love you all. Stay safe, stay strong. Don't listen to the bullshit. And good night.
Yeah.
All right. Paint the
Thanks
wall.
for coming on, Elsa. Bye, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.